resentment has shown up in my life in a lot of different places, and my response to it is anger and nastiness, meanness. And I would like to believe, I do believe that there's a vulnerable place in me that where the resentment is showing an emotion that feels less harsh than the way that I'm feeling it and displaying it. And I'd like to believe that I can show that to myself and to others. But how do we get to that underlying vulnerability?
So if you gave an example of a time when you were resentful,
Mm-hmm.
that would be really helpful to isolate the vulnerability.
We just got a new dog, my husband and I, and I'm home a lot right now, and I'm home with the dog, and he's at school and he's working, and my time is plentiful and his is limited, and I feel resentful of being the primary caretaker of our dog. And I knew going into this that would be the case, and I was fine with it. And now that we're here, I feel resentful, and I don't feel fair for being resentful.
And so if you really express the resentment to him, this is a starter, what would you say? Even if it's absurd. I mean, let it be absurd, because in this situation it might be completely absurd because you knew what you were getting into.
Mm-hmm. I knew what I was getting into, and I wanted it. I still want it.
Right.
But this feeling of resentment is there.
Right.
And if I just said, the first thing that came to my mind, it would be, you're not holding your end of the bargain.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Keep going.
And you're not putting in 50-50. And this is something that we decided to do together. And I'm doing 90 and you're doing 10.
Right.
And is this what it's going to be for the rest of our lives?
Right. Okay. Now, what's the laughter?
The laughter is, I know it's ridiculous.
Okay.
And I know that it's absurd and that it's not practical or logical.
Okay. All right. So in this situation, it's very subtle. What I sense in the laughter is a certain kind of embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
That you're embarrassed, that you're resentful, because you knew you agreed to it. And if you go into the embarrassment is a softer emotion. And also the absurdity, the humor, is a softer emotional state as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give yourself great permission to express the resentment, then you can get in touch with the laughter and the absurdity and the embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you can say is, you know what? I know this is absurd because I'm the one with free time and it can't be 50-50. And this is a self-centered part of me.
Absolutely.
That I don't want to judge, which you have a tendency to judge.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to do is see it more clearly as, at times, unreasonable, and get the joke. You know? And that giggle is a healing giggle. That embarrassment is a healing embarrassment. Because the real need in this situation, because we have the defense, which is the resentment, we have the embarrassment and the absurdity as the softer emotion, more vulnerable underneath. And the real need, actually, in this situation, is for you to take responsibility for an agreement that the two of you made, not for him to change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say it was a different situation where you had agreed to 50-50, he had 50% of the time, and he wasn't taking responsibility. Then the need would be, hey, we agreed to this, let's be fair. But in this case, the deepest need is, okay, Scott, I want to admit, this is a self-centered part of me that's out of control in this moment. I want to come to you humbly and admit my embarrassment and my absurdity. And in facing that, I feel cleansed.
I like that.